This is Coach Fulton. What we're going to be covering today is workout splits. This is a subject that can be very overwhelming and hard to know where to start. What routine is best for you? We're going to be covering everything from full body to push-pull legs and everything in between. I'll be breaking down each different routine, their pros, their cons, and who they're most appropriate for. So before we get into what the best workout split is for your goals, we do have to cover what is a workout split. Simply put, it's how you structure your training throughout the week. So some people may, for instance, train their whole body every time they're in the gym. Other people may use a structure that trains individual muscle groups. How these are partitioned and how these vary really do depend on goals, experience level, and also just how much availability you have to be spending in the gym. Each one of those factors is going to weigh in quite heavily onto what workout split is best for you. The first one we're going to talk about is full body, and this one has a special place in my heart. I think it's one of the greatest thing, and I think it works best for probably 90% of people. On a full body split, you basically train all of your muscles every time you're in the gym. This is usually done about 2 to 3 times a week, so it is really good for people that are short on time or don't want to live in the gym. It can usually be really simple to follow and quite easy to progress, although the cons are that it can be exhausting if the intensity is too high. A lot of times people get a little bit too advanced, and the idea of doing heavy leg movements 3 times a week, maybe some sort of heavy chest movement, that kind of repeating measures can be quite difficult and can catch up to you as you get more advanced. It's not impossible. I mean, we can look at people like Reg Park that trained full body, and he was absolutely huge. But it can obviously be a little bit harder. If you're looking to bring up a specific muscle group, it's going to be harder to do that on a full body system. So in my categories of who I think it's best for is complete beginners, those that don't really want to spend a lifetime in the gym. If you don't want to be the next Ronnie Coleman, if you're not trying to compete in top tier powerlifting or whatever, if you're just a guy or girl that wants to get fitter, stronger, and look a little bit better, it's definitely for you. It's also really good, even if you are a little bit more advanced. If you're someone that's a little short on time, if you find yourself not being able to train as often, it is good to go full body so that you can still keep the frequency of training your muscles up while cutting the actual days down in the gym. Now, the upper-lower split is just like the elevated, it's the aristocrats full body. All it consists of is an upper day followed by a lower day, maybe a break in the middle, and then an upper body day, then a lower body day, and 2 days break. It just kind of cycles on like that for a total of 4 days of training within the week. A big pro is just balancing volume and recovery, and people seem to cope a little bit better, and a lot of times actually segmenting upper body and lower body can allow you to really separate your focus. I find when I've been training upper lower splits, it can be quite nice to just go into the gym and go, all I need to do is my upper body. Or on your lower day, you start getting the feeling of training your legs, you can just chase the pump on one kind of exact area, your upper, your lower. It can be a little bit easier, and you don't get that kind of cross contamination, I suppose, between your days where you're, or maybe perhaps on a full body split, you're doing heavy squats twice a week, you're doing heavy deadlifts, that can kind of really catch up. Whereas you can segment that upper and lower, and I find that it just seems to run a lot more sustainably as you advance. Obviously, the bigger con there is that you're spending more time in the gym, so you do have to spend more days in there. The sessions by themselves, I find, are normally actually easier. So, it's kind of more like 4 easier sessions compared to a full body split that would be 3 pretty hard sessions. One of the kind of critiques of this as well, I suppose, is a lot of people do say that even on upper lower, it is easy to kind of neglect weak points just by trying to really segment that upper lower structure. It's best for intermediate lifters, people that have already spent the time, maybe 1 to 2 years in the gym already, and are looking to advance in size and strength. Next, we've got push-pull legs. And for me, to be fair, I actually find this one's it's good. Oh, don't get me wrong, it's good, and I've ran it before. I do think it's a little hype. I've had people come up to me like in the gym, worked with like clients or whatever. Had friends that have asked me, and they're like, "I heard that everyone needs to be on push pull legs. That you need to do push pull legs. Push pull legs is the best split. Is push pull legs the ultimate split? If I'm a beginner and I do push pull legs, can I expect to put on 20 pounds of muscle? It just there's a lot of kind of um public captivation with this, and it is somewhat deserved, but I think that there's many people doing push-pull legs that probably don't need to be doing it. I think it is best that if you can commit the time to doing it, because a lot of times that's going to be 6 days a week if you're training push-pull legs. If you can commit the time to doing it, and if you've been in the gym for a while, if you've done your upper lower, if you've done your full bodies, and you've kind of maybe hit a plateau with that, and you find yourself wanting to spend 6 days a week in the gym, you really like spending that amount of time in the gym, then push-pull legs is definitely something for you. One of the major pros is that it does split up muscle groups, and the muscle groups it does split up are complementary. A lot of times it's going to be chest and tricep, shoulders, and then kind of back, biceps, and then you've got legs. It's good for hypertrophy, and I think it is quite good to be single-minded in your focus in a workout. It can be good that you've got a chest pump already from doing flat bench, and then you're jumping on to do some dumbbell incline bench after that on your push day, and then after that you're looking to do some dips, so you're hammering more the kind of shoulders and triceps, and then after that you're doing some chest flies, and then after that it can be good to like you already know what you're targeting, you're getting a good mind muscle connection, a lot of volume in those areas, and it can be quite good for the recovery, because if your chest and triceps are absolutely toast when you go to train back and biceps, yeah, they might feel fried still, but it's not going to actually impede your ability to do your back day. Some of the cons is obviously just the time investment. You have to be in the gym 6 days a week. The other thing as well is the volumes for beginners and for kind of less advanced lifters can sometimes just be unnecessarily high, and maybe even cause a bit of a backslide compared to the progress that these people expect to see. There's many times that I've seen guys that are extremely skinny, spend a lot of time in the gym, they're asking me about push-pull legs, and they can barely bench 60 kilos, they can barely bench 135 pounds, and they're talking to me about push-pull legs, and they would do much better with a full body split 3 days a week and just eating a little bit more, because in their case they are under recovered. So there is a cut off. You need to be advanced enough to run push pull legs and kind of need that level of stimulus to kind of justify doing it. Another con is slightly pedantic, and that is that a lot of people say that push pull legs should be pull push legs, or legs push pull. So just to kind of get into that, and the reason why is just for a really good way to separate your the stress on your lower back, and by putting the push day in the middle rather than at the start of the week, it means that you don't have to do a heavy back day and a heavy leg day. The solution to that though is very easy, and that is just to follow a legs push pull structure, or pull push legs. But that's fairly pedantic, to be honest. This is best for intermediate to advanced lifters. I really wouldn't suggest any kind of novices or beginners doing it. If you've not been in the gym for a year, all you're doing is kind of spinning your wheels. You're spending more time, more effort, making yourself kind of probably under recovered when you really don't need to be. So yeah, definitely for intermediates and advanced lifters that are trying to take themselves to the next step and can keep up with the demand of how long and how often they'll have to be in the gym, it is really good for elevating from that intermediate phase into kind of a more advanced phase, especially for hypertrophy. Next up, we have got the bro split. This is essentially just kind of dedicating one muscle or muscle group to a given day of the week. So for instance, you might do chest Monday, back Tuesday, arms Wednesday, your legs, so on and so forth. This one used to get absolutely dunked on YouTube Fitness and stuff like that. Back when I was, a little bit younger, talking maybe like 2016, bro splits were absolute sacrilege. It was a heretic to run a bro split. But you've had some really good guys run bro splits. The majority of your IFBB pros have actually ran bro splits. They obviously do have criticism, and the criticism is just. But I don't think that you're going to get absolutely nothing out of running a bro split. The major con, because I'm just going to talk about the con first to explain why it's controversial, is that it's really low frequency. You're training one muscle once a week, and most findings have found that training muscles, 2 to 3 times a week is better. So that fits in that full body, upper, lower, push-pull legs are much more advanced, much better as a system. I will say though, on a bro split, you can really go into the weeds and really push yourself absolutely to the brink on each and every day. So you go, because you don't have to train back until next week, you can absolutely demolish your back on back day, and you maybe don't have to consider or balance your recovery as much because you're able to work at much higher threshold knowing that you've got a full week to recover. So because of that, you can definitely allow your dose to be higher, the dose of volume that you're getting and the dose of intensity. And I'm sure there is something really positive to be gained out of that. But I have to say, if you want to run it for a bit of novelty, I'm sure that you can make gains on this. I really do have the approach that if you try hard, that's the biggest thing. You just have to try hard and try and lift a little bit heavier than last time. Try a little bit harder than last time in the gym, and you will progress. So if that's the split that you want to do, you feel motivated to do it, you feel confident to do it, then I suppose that's the best one for you. It can be good for those that are already experienced, maybe more advanced, you know what you're doing, you know how to balance your routine, and if you kind of really want to run it, if it's something that you find motivating to do, it can be good for you, because at the end of the day, the best split is definitely the one that you feel motivated to do. It's also really good for guys that are on steroids and stuff like that. If your natural frequency is a bigger factor, whereas obviously if you're enhanced, you do have a little bit of leeway that most things are going to work for you. Finally, we have to talk about the gentleman split. Now, the gentleman split was popularised, this is where I've got the name from, by natural hypertrophy. I'm sure other people have done it. I think that in his kind of philosophy with it, it is upper, lower, then an arms day at the end of the week. But I think you could probably take that and make an adjustment. I would say probably the best way of doing it would be upper, lower, and then just a day of like a weak point focus day. I don't know if that's what he's suggested, but if it is, then obviously there is no correction there. But yeah, upper, lower, weak point is one of the best splits. If you've got the time to do 5 days a week in the gym and you want to take your goals just that little bit further, I think rather than a push-pull legs, if you want to elevate your upper lower split, if you want to move on from that, I would definitely recommend, the gentleman split, because that allows you to get a twice a week frequency on your upper and lower body, and then you've just got a day at the end of the week where you go, what do I think is lagging? And you can commit to that. You can really create the physique that you want through that by upping the volume on specific areas. If you feel like on your upper lower days, that despite, trying to keep them balanced, your chest is growing more than your back. It then means that on that weak point day at the end of the week, you can do a lot of kind of back isolation, really try and drive the volume up and see progress there. If you feel like your arms are small, then you can absolutely gun in and do an arms day. It just allows that kind of customizability of the bro split, but with the kind of elevated knowledge of an upper lower split. The pro is that it's much better than just your regular kind of bro split, arguably better than push pull legs. It doesn't require like a massive upping of time commitment compared to your regular upper lower split. The cons, I would say, is that obviously you have to spend 5 days a week in the gym, but I think it is a really good split. I would say that it is better for people that are, once again, intermediate bordering on advanced. I think there's probably a lot to be had and a lot to be gained from just a traditional upper lower split. And if you're like in your kind of first couple of years of lifting, you're not really going to even have weak points to iron out. Everything's going to be a weak point. If everything is a weak point, then there's no point of having a weak point day. 4 will be enough, and 4 days a week is probably enough for most people. So yeah, it's definitely, I would say that the gentleman split is basically, if you want to be elevated from an upper lower, if you want to maximize your results, I would say that's definitely it. But I would say that it definitely does have an experiential bar to it, and you have to have been doing your full bodies, your upper lowers for a little bit before you start wanting to go on 5 days a week in the gym. Another con, I suppose, is that it requires like a good understanding of programming. It requires a good understanding of your physique and an objective understanding of your physique and your body, because obviously if you get a weak point day at the end of the week, that is pretty much entirely up to you. There's a lot of people that if you're a little body dysmorphic, you could throw your entire physique off. I've met guys that feel really insecure about one particular area of their body, and they build that to the detriment of everything else. I've met a lot of guys that they are so frightened of having like small legs that they beef their legs, do everything they can for their legs, and it gets to the point, because of kind of like leg day skipping, shaming, which is absolutely valid. You should absolutely shame people for skipping leg day, but I feel like now everyone does leg day. So I know a lot of guys that are actually probably putting too much volume into their legs, and they get to the point that their legs look so big compared to the size of their lats that they can end up with a imbalanced physique. So if you're a little bit body dysmorphic, I think that having a weak point day could probably lead you off track rather than having a nice balanced program that just keeps everything equated when it comes to volume. So once again, a really good split if you're intermediate to advanced and you're just wanting to take yourself that little step further without also having to spend 6 days a week in the gym. Now, let me know down below, what is your favourite training split? Was it on the list that I mentioned, or was there any that I missed? If I've missed any, you can just pop them down below in the comments. I hope that this was a helpful guide that helped you know a little bit more and know what workout split would be best for you. If this is the kind of content that you like and you want to learn a little bit more about training, you can just click the subscribe button, hitting the notification bell so you can stay up to date on this type of video. I'll see you in the next one.